Before I die, there is one secret I refuse to take with me. If you're watching this, don't leave before you hear it. Because this one lesson took me 102 years to understand, and it changed everything. People spend their whole lives chasing happiness, yet most of them die without ever finding it. I almost became one of them. Everywhere I go, people ask me the same question. What's the secret? How did you live so long? How are you still happy? They expect me to talk about healthy food, exercise, good genes, or a glass of wine with dinner. Yes, I've done those things, but none of them are the real reason. The truth is much simpler and much harder. Happiness isn't something you find. It isn't something life hands you. It's something you choose every single day. Most people never realize that. They keep waiting for the perfect job, the perfect partner, the perfect bank account, the perfect moment to finally be happy. They wait, and they wait, until one day there isn't enough time left to live the life they were saving. I stopped waiting a long time ago. That's why, even at 102 years old, I still wake up grateful for another sunrise. But don't mistake my smile for a life without pain. Every wrinkle on my face was earned. Every laugh you hear from me survived 1,000 tears. When I was 5 years old, I watched tuberculosis take my mother away. I can still remember the sound of her coughing and the silence that filled our home after she was gone. A few years later, my father brought me to America with only $40 in his pocket and not a word of English. We slept on a hard floor with 6 other people, and by the age of 10, I was working beside my father making shoes until my fingers bled. Then I found the love of my life, Anna Maria. We had only 9 beautiful years together before she died in a single, ordinary afternoon, leaving me a widower at 31 with 2 small children and a broken heart. Years later, just when I thought life couldn't hurt me anymore, the business I had spent 26 years building burned to ashes in one night. I stood there watching my life's work disappear in flames. So don't tell me happiness belongs only to people with easy lives. I know grief, I know failure. I know what it feels like to lose almost everything. And that's exactly why you should believe what I'm about to tell you. Because the greatest secret to a happy life isn't avoiding pain, it's learning what to do with it. And that is the first lesson I want to leave behind before I go. The first lesson I want to leave behind is this. Hard times don't have to make you hard. Life will break your heart at some point. It will take people you love, destroy plans you've worked years to build, and leave you standing in places you never imagined you'd be. But even then, you still have a choice. After Anna Maria died, I thought my life was over. I was angry at everything. Angry at God, angry at fate, angry at people who seemed happy while my world had fallen apart. For months, I carried that anger everywhere I went. I snapped at customers, argued with family members, and pushed away the people who cared about me. I barely slept, barely ate, and my children were starting to fear the man I had become. Then one night, my daughter Lucia, who was only 5 years old at the time, walked up to me with tears in her eyes and asked a question that changed my life forever. She looked at me and said, "Papa, why are you always angry? Did I do something wrong?" The moment those words left her mouth, I felt something inside me shatter. Here was a little girl who had already lost her mother, and now she believed she was losing her father too. Not because I had died, but because my anger had taken me away from her. That night, after she went to sleep, I sat alone in the dark and had a conversation with myself. I realized I had reached a crossroads. I could continue being angry, or I could be the father my children needed. I couldn't be both. Then I thought about Anna Maria. She hadn't fallen in love with an angry man. She had fallen in love with someone who laughed, who found joy in small things, who made her smile even during difficult times. If I truly loved her, then the best way to honor her memory wasn't by drowning in bitterness. It was by becoming the man she believed I was. So I made a decision. Not once, but every single day. Every morning I chose to get out of bed. Every morning I chose to smile at my children, even when my heart was hurting. Was I still sad? Of course I was. There were days when I missed her so much that I could barely breathe. But I refused to let sadness become the only thing my children remembered. I wanted them to see that life could still be beautiful after tragedy. I wanted them to learn that a broken heart doesn't mean a broken life. And maybe that's something you need to hear today. Maybe you're carrying a pain that nobody else can see. Maybe you've lost someone you loved, lost a dream you believed in, or lost a part of yourself somewhere along the way. If that's true, don't run from the pain. Feel it. Let yourself grieve, but don't live there forever. Because after the pain comes a choice about who you're going to become because of it. That's where your power is. That's where healing begins. Many years later, life gave me another lesson. In 1990, I was 70 years old. Most people my age had stopped expecting surprises from life. I certainly had. I had spent nearly 40 years alone, convinced that chapter of my story was finished. One Sunday I went to a church potluck, and if I'm being completely honest, I only went because I heard there would be homemade lasagna. While I was standing there with a plate in my hand, I noticed a woman across the room. She was laughing, and her laughter filled the entire room with warmth. I remember looking at her and thinking that it was the most beautiful thing I had seen in decades. Her name was Gloria Washington. She was a retired nurse, smart, kind, funny, and full of life. The more time I spent with her, the more I realized something important. Happiness had found its way back into my life, but only because I had left the door open for it. Not everyone approved. An old Italian man and a black woman falling in love in Brooklyn in 1990 attracted plenty of attention. Some people whispered behind our backs. Some openly criticized us. Even my own son struggled to accept it. For a long time, he believed I was somehow betraying his mother's memory by allowing myself to love again. But by then, I had learned one of the most important truths of all. You cannot build a happy life by living according to other people's expectations. One day I told my son, "I love you, but I spent 40 years alone. I finally found someone who makes me laugh again. At my age, I don't have enough time left to waste worrying about what other people think." And that's a lesson I hope you remember. If something brings genuine joy to your life, don't let fear, judgment, or the opinions of others take it away from you. People will always have something to say. Let them. This is your life, not theirs. You only get one chance to live it. Don't spend it asking for permission to be happy. The second lesson is one I learned far too late, and I hope you learn it long before you reach my age. Stop letting other people's opinions decide how you live your life. I wasted years worrying about what people thought of me. Was I successful enough? Was I respected enough? Was I making the right choices? Then one day I realized something that changed me forever. Other people's opinions can't actually hurt you. They only become dangerous when you start believing them. The people judging your life don't have to wake up in your shoes every morning. They don't carry your regrets, your dreams, or your heart. You do. So why give strangers the power to write your story? When I married Gloria, people had plenty to say. Some whispered behind our backs. Some laughed. Some told me I was too old to fall in love again. Others said I was dishonoring my first wife. Even my own son refused to speak to me for 2 years because he couldn't understand my decision. Years earlier, those words would have crushed me. But by then I had already buried too many people and survived too much pain to waste another day living for someone else's approval. I looked at my son and simply said, "Enzo, I love you with all my heart, but I already spent 40 years alone. I'm not going to spend whatever time I have left apologizing for being happy." And you know what happened? Those people eventually stopped talking. They always do. That's another thing life teaches you. The things that seem so important to everyone today are forgotten tomorrow. People move on. The only person who stays with your decisions for the rest of your life is you. Gloria and I were blessed with 33 wonderful years together. 33 years filled with laughter, road trips, Sunday dinners, dancing in the kitchen, and countless ordinary moments that became extraordinary simply because we shared them. Last year she passed away peacefully in her sleep at 95 years old. I sat beside her bed and held her hand through the night, hoping to feel one last squeeze. I still miss her every single day. Sometimes I still catch myself looking at the chair where she used to sit. Grief never completely leaves you. It simply learns to sit quietly beside love. But if Gloria could walk through that door right now, do you know what she'd say? She'd probably point her finger at me and say, "Sal, don't you dare spend the rest of your life feeling sorry for yourself. We were given 33 beautiful years together. That's more love than many people ever get. Be grateful for what we had, not miserable because it ended." She always had a way of making life sound simple. And she was right. So every time I laugh, every time I smile, every time I enjoy another sunrise, I feel like I'm honoring her instead of mourning her. People often ask me what makes me happy now that I'm 102 years old. They expect me to name something expensive or extraordinary, but my list is almost embarrassingly simple. A hot cup of coffee before the world wakes up. Sunlight pouring through my kitchen window. The smell of fresh bread from the bakery. An old Italian song playing on the radio. My great-granddaughter Sophia calling me every Sunday just to hear another story from her old great-grandpa. A warm bed after a long day. A stranger smiling as we pass each other on the sidewalk. That's my treasure. That's enough. I don't need a yacht. I don't need a mansion. I don't need another dollar in the bank to feel rich. I've learned that the happiest people aren't the ones who have the most. They're the ones who notice the most. And that brings me to the third lesson, the most important lesson of all. If you forget everything else I've said today, I hope you remember this. Happiness is not waiting for you at the end of the journey. It isn't hiding behind a promotion, a bigger paycheck, a nicer house, or the perfect relationship. We spend half our lives believing happiness is always one achievement away. When I finally get this, then I'll be happy. But the moment we reach that goal, another one appears. The finish line keeps moving, and before we know it, we've spent our entire lives chasing tomorrow while completely missing today. It took me more than 100 years to understand that happiness was never hiding somewhere in the future. It was quietly sitting beside me all along, in the smell of morning coffee, in the laughter of family, in conversations with old friends, in a peaceful walk, in simply waking up with another chance to live. The problem wasn't that happiness was missing. The problem was that I wasn't paying attention. So tonight, after you finish watching this video, I want you to do something that may seem incredibly small, but it has the power to change your life. Sit somewhere quiet. Don't pick up your phone. Don't turn on the television. Just look around. Find 3 things you're grateful for. Not the big things, the little ones. The way your dog runs to greet you when you come home. The sound of your children laughing in another room. The fact that your lungs keep breathing without you ever having to think about it. Those tiny blessings are the foundation of a joyful life. Gratitude is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. And one day you'll wake up realizing that your life didn't change overnight. You simply learn to see it differently. People often tell me, "Sal, you've lost so much. How can you still smile?" They're right. I lost my mother when I was 5 years old. I buried my first wife before I was 32. I watched my business burn to ashes after decades of hard work. Last year I lost Gloria, the woman who gave me another chance at love. By all logic, I should be the saddest man alive. But every morning before I get out of bed, I whisper the same prayer. Thank you, God, for one more day, one more sunrise, one more chance to laugh, one more chance to love. What are we going to do with today? That simple habit has carried me through every heartbreak life ever handed me. So here it is, the secret I promised you at the beginning of this video. The secret to a happy life isn't luck, it isn't money, it isn't perfect health or perfect circumstances. The secret is that every single morning you make a choice. You choose joy, you choose gratitude, you choose hope. Not because life is easy, it isn't. Not because bad things won't happen, they will. You choose joy because every other choice steals the precious time you still have left. Before my mother died, she told me something I never truly understood until I was an old man. She smiled at me and said, "Salvatore, life is beautiful if you learn how to look at it." I didn't understand those words when I was 5. I didn't understand them when I was 30 or 50 or even 70. But now at 102, I finally do. Life isn't perfect. It never has been. It will break your heart. It will disappoint you. It will take people you love. But despite all of that, life is still unbelievably beautiful. Beautiful because you get to love. Beautiful because you get to laugh. Beautiful because every sunrise is another chance to begin again. So don't wait for life to become perfect before you allow yourself to be happy. Don't wait for more money. Don't wait for fewer problems. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Because the greatest secret I've learned in 102 years is this: happiness doesn't arrive someday. It begins the moment you decide to see the beauty that's already in front of you.